What is going on, you guys? Welcome back. I am Patrick, otherwise known as Scotty. Got a little bit of an update. As you can tell, voice is a lot better. So I am feeling a lot better. And yeah, I was able to actually start my new job. So yay for that. So I'm going to just be looking off screen because I have notes, lot to talk about. But hopefully I'll keep this a little shorter. I don't want to try to ramble for 20 minutes. So I have the new job, making tremendously more money. This is the most money I've ever made in terms of per hour in my lifetime. So it's kind of a big deal. It's going to help with a lot of the expenses for the truck, the food truck. There are a lot of expenses, and I'll talk about that coming up. But it's going to help a lot with that. So it's also a second shift job. So I work 1 to 9:30. So it does help me in terms of being able to prep and bake in the mornings at the commercial kitchen. And then if I need to, I can. It's actually it's less than 10 minutes away from work. The kitchen is. So I can just swing over there if I need to do something quick. It's open 24/7. I have access to the kitchen 24/7. So there's a key fob. I can get in, out, just if I wanted to do a late night. However, with the markets on Saturday, I have to be at the market, I think at like 7 or 7:30. So not a whole lot of time if I want to stay up till midnight cooking, and then I have to drive like 30 minutes home and then try to get some sleep. So we'll see how that works. The goal is to do morning prep, morning baking, and then just pick up everything on Saturday morning for the first market, and head down there. So in terms of the food truck, so I do have a permit inspection set for April 7th. I just finalized that. Well, it's tentatively on the schedule. I got to pay all the fees. So I have to pay for 2 permits. So one is, actually I can pull up the application. I don't know why I didn't just do this in the first place. Why did that folder pop up? Apparently I closed the other one. Okay, so give me a second while I pull this up. And where's Oak Creek? There we are. That is not the right permit. There we go. So it is called the Retail Food Establishment Permit. However, one of them is not a retail establishment. So the Retail Food Establishment Permit is mainly for the kitchen. So I'm renting commercial kitchen space in Oak Creek. I have to get a food permit for that. There's a health inspection. There's a health inspection involved. It's expensive. It's like $800 some. So then I submitted the same application, but under it I put mobile. And so what that's going to turn into is a Wisconsin transient food establishment permit. And that allows me to go virtually anywhere in the state of Wisconsin with a catch. So you can't just have the transient permit depending on the city and the town. Every city and town is different. So like Oak Creek doesn't have a separate permit I have to get. So I don't have to get like a hawker's permit or a peddler's permit or a separate food truck permit. However, in Racine, I have to get a hawker's permit, and that's like another $200-300. And I think they also charge for an inspection. So I would have to then pay for another inspection that might jump it up to like $300, $400, $500. This is a yearly permit. So it's more expensive the first year because you have to pay for the inspection, and the initial permit fee is higher. But when you get recertified or for the annual, it's cheaper. It's gonna be a couple $100 cheaper. So I have both inspections set for April 7th. So the truck has to be ready to go by April 7th. The kitchen's already good to go. They're fine. So that's kind of where we're at. And I've currently been buying like little odds and end things. When I say little, I mean like we're not talking like thousands of dollars. We're talking like like I bought this. So this is just one part. I have a 24 pager system. This was at the recommendation of another food truck. They said that instead of like sitting there calling out names and trying to figure out how to put people's names in for their receipts and stuff, just use a pager and then just put the number. And then so we have a base. So this is number 22. and then it just goes off, and then it actually vibrates. Um, so, and then all I have to do is just press that, silences it. It's rechargeable. I actually really like this idea. This was actually a little expensive. It was almost $200, which, I mean, I guess everything's relative, but so one thing that I'm doing is I'm changing the insert out. So it comes like this. So it comes with this generic, you know, and this screen, there's actually a little plastic screen and it just pops off. So I actually designed this morning, and then I actually just sent it off to the printer because this is so I printed this off at home, and I have a decent printer, but like I want the thicker, like waxier paper to go under here. So I sent it off to FedEx office. It should be ready. It should be ready today, and then I just got to cut them out and put them into all of these. But I just wanted to put one in here just to see if it fit, and then to show you guys. So it's kind of a cool system. I think I'm gonna really like this. I might have to get 2 of them because the system that I have right now is 24 pagers. I'm probably gonna have to double that. But yeah, but I wanted to get the one, test it out. It works really well. And then I've just been buying some little, like, like some smaller utensils and stuff like that. I'm really kind of holding off on the big expenses right now, just because it's been, I would, I have QuickBooks now, and I was going through like how much stuff costs, and I think I've spent like $4,000 since the start of the year. And it's starting to take a little bit of a toll, especially when I'm out for 2 weeks being sick without pay. So, back to the food truck. I've been approved for more events. So, both for Oak Creek. So Oak Creek is where I actually went to high school. I graduated from Oak Creek High School. I actually did marching band. I was in the school paper. I ran track. I played football. I was in marching band, concert band, jazz band, every kind of band, and I actually went to state for track. So, but that was back in 2001. That tells you how old I am. But yeah, so it's kind of like my hometown. I was raised half the time, and this is from when I came to the U.S. So I came to the U.S. when I was 7. I was adopted, and so I lived up until like I think my 7th or 8th grade year. I lived in Racine, not too far from where I live now. It's actually only probably about 5 minutes away. My childhood house is only about 5 minutes away. Don't like to really go there. There's some pretty bad memories there, but I did drive past there a couple years ago, and I got overwhelmed with emotion. Just because like I said, my family's been through a lot. I've been through a lot. So, I try not to go through there too often. But I did get to see, so we planted little, pine trees when we were kids. They were like maybe a foot tall, and now they're gigantic. They're like 20 some feet tall or 30 feet tall. It's incredible. But yeah, anyway, back to, so yeah, I grew up half the time in Racine, went to Racine schools. I went to Jefferson Lighthouse and McKinley Middle School in Racine, and then we moved up, I think it was my 8th grade year. And then even though we were living in Oak Creek for my 8th grade year, my mom worked in Racine. She was a teacher, so she just drove me to school. And then freshman year, I went to Oak Creek High School. So I knew nobody when I went to band camp, because that was actually the first thing I ever did for Oak Creek High School. Is I went to band camp in like I think it was like early August. And that's where I started making friends and stuff like that, because that's what band people do. But anyway, so I consider like Oak Creek kind of like my hometown, just because, a lot of big things happened in my life. A lot of good things happened. Not to say that I don't have love for Racine. I do. I love Racine. I don't know. I think there's just something about graduating high school and that just kind of feeling like your base. I lived in Oak Creek for years off and on. I haven't lived there actually I lived there for a little bit. But like I lived out west, towards Madison. It's not really it's like halfway between Madison and Milwaukee. So I lived in the Pewaukee Delafield area for a little while, because that's where the jobs were at the time. So, but I'm back here. I'm actually gonna be in so I'm going to be here in Wisconsin in the Racine area for a couple more years. I renewed my lease before all this food truck stuff happened, and I signed a 2-year lease, and that's just so that I didn't have to get stuck with. Actually, I think it was an 18-month lease. I don't. No, it's a 2-year. I signed a 2-year lease just to keep the costs low because they always want to raise your rent. So, anyway, digressing back to the food truck. So I was approved for Oak Creek. Both will be in the 4th of July parade. So I'm going to have to take the food truck in the 4th of July parade. And then the day before, Oak Creek's doing a July 3rd fireworks. And we have been approved as one of the vendors that serves prior to the fireworks and during the fireworks, I believe. So that'll be kind of cool. And I'll actually be there with another food truck from the kitchen that I'm renting. The owners of the commercial kitchen, the shared kitchen, they actually have a food truck, and they're the ones that recommended me to do this. And then they got approved yesterday, and then I got approved yesterday. So it'll be kind of cool that there'll be a familiar face there, and I can pick their brain. They're actually the ones that suggested the pager system, and they gave me a lot of great ideas, and a lot of things to think about and work through. And so it's been really nice to have them. So I'm waiting to hear back on 2 major events. One event is actually is a multi-day. It's throughout the summer. I'm still waiting to hear back from them. Haven't heard anything, but I'm sure they probably got bombarded with like a couple hundred food trucks. And then I'm waiting to hear back. Oh, on the local one here in Racine. I sent them everything. I haven't heard back. Well, they initially responded and said, "Hey, we want to just see your layout, and we want to see your menu." I sent them everything, and then I haven't heard anything. It's been about a week, but I know that a lot of times it takes time. I mean, my Oak Creek permit took, I think I went 2-3 weeks without hearing anything. And then I found out that there's a couple events that I can't apply to just because I don't have my food permit yet, and they want a proof of that. So there's some places that like Oak Creek that'll work with you. They'll give you time. They'll conditionally approve you. They'll say, "Hey, we need the food permit by this day or by this month." So like Oak Creek said, they need my permit by May, which is fine because my permit's set for April 7th. If it passes, I believe I get it like a day or 2 later. I could actually go pick it up, I think, the next day. So I'll have that by the end of the first full week of April. I don't foresee anything happening. So that's kind of where we're going on with the events. And then with the food truck. So I'm still working on the truck wrap. Unfortunately, it's just so expensive, and I haven't heard back from any potential sponsors. I mailed out like a bunch. I think I mailed out like 30 letters. I probably emailed at least 100 businesses. I'm sure a lot of it goes to spam. So most of it probably doesn't get read. I've had a bunch of no's, and I get it. It's an expensive proposal, but I think it's a win-win for everybody. Because if I do get approved for these other events that I'm waiting to hold back, or I'm waiting to hear back from, excuse me. Okay. If I get approved for these events, and some of these ones where I have to wait, but I do get approved. I mean, we're talking about going from like 750,000 people potential viewing to over 1 million in our first year, because these are some big events that I'm applying for. So I mean, it's the potential's there. It's just trying to persuade businesses that, hey, like, would you be willing to give me a couple $1,000s in exchange for a decal on the truck? And I get it. It's expensive, and especially in these times when everybody's probably struggling a little bit. But I have I'm gonna hit up a couple more businesses. I've really kind of held off on the really big businesses, like big insurance companies and like big players here in Southeast Wisconsin, because I was hoping that maybe some of the smaller places would be more interested to get on board. But yeah, I just don't think they have the money. So I applied to. There was one group, like 30 of them, where it was strictly Oak Creek, and I did a lot. I've done a lot of stuff in Oak Creek. I ran a charity event for 12 years. I did a lot of volunteer work through a church that I was involved in a couple churches in Oak Creek, and I volunteered a lot with those churches. And we went out into the city, I volunteer for a lot of events. And like I said, I found it and co-directed a major event every year. It was called the Evening of Blessings Thanksgiving Dinner, and it was a charity event where we fed people. I like to call them financially disadvantaged. I was one of those people for a couple years that I ran it. Where people just can't afford to have Thanksgiving. People that maybe are traveling, maybe are here for work and they can't go home. Or people that just don't have families. I was one of those people too for several years where, I didn't have anyone to spend Thanksgiving with. So, that was my Thanksgiving. I mean, I still made a Thanksgiving for myself, but, that's where I got to really partake. And I mean, we were feeding about 500-600 people every year, and it was 100% paid for through corporate donors. So I'm kind of hoping that helps, with like credibility and stuff like that. I've done a lot of work in Oak Creek. I've done a lot, I've tried to do a lot of good things in Oak Creek. So, so I'm hoping that I can still get sponsors. The GoFundMe's raised $0 so far. I ended up closing out the Kickstarter because it's just nothing but just scams. People just trying to scam me. And it was just getting old. All this false hope, people pledging, and then like it doesn't, it doesn't pan out. Whereas GoFundMe, like, if you get a pledge, that's it. Like, there's no backing out. So I'm hoping that GoFundMe still takes off. I really don't know how long that runs for, but I'm hoping that helps. I understand that there's probably a lot of people that are skeptical, especially because, like, I still haven't done a video of the truck because I don't have access to the truck yet. I should have it in sometime in March, hopefully mid-March. It all comes down to money. Like, I'm getting tapped financially, and then the 2 weeks that I was sick really kind of set me back because that was a lot of money that I lost. You're talking a couple $1,000s that I lost in income, and then bills I still have to pay bills. And at that time, I had to buy different foods and stuff like that. It costs more, and I had to pay for delivery because I couldn't go to the store because I was sick, and I didn't want to get people sick. So yeah, it just kind of set me back a couple weeks. Worst case scenario is, here's what I'm thinking, is I may need to go with a super simplistic or minimalist design for the food truck. So keeping most of that white. I don't know if you guys have seen the pictures, but it's a mostly white truck. It's got a white wrap on it, a couple logos on it. But so what I'm thinking is on the bottom third of the truck, talking to a company and doing a custom vinyl for that. Doing maybe a camel pattern because I'm a veteran, and then replacing the logo that's on there with my logo, and then putting a couple things up like veteran owned and operated. Making sure we have maybe put a QR code for our website. I have to get a menu board that I'll Velcro on to the side of the truck for this year, and then probably logo for the front, stuff on the back, but just keep it super minimalistic. Try to keep the cost low. If I can try to keep it down to like $1,500 or like $2,000, I think I can pay for that. And then just save up the money this year and then do a full wrap next year. That's the worst case scenario. I have to do something because the truck, I don't want to just have a white truck. It's not going to stand out. Would it be nice to do a full wrap? Yes, but I need to raise $10,000, and I don't have access to $10,000 unless I win the lottery tonight. So if you guys want to wish me well on the lottery tonight, because I won like $2, so I'll just use that to buy another ticket, and so yeah, we'll see what happens. That's kind of where we're at. This video ended up being longer than I hoped, but that's because I went on some tangents. But it's kind of where we're at. We've got the we've got the buzzers, so we're getting somewhere. And then yeah, just waiting to hear back on a bunch of stuff, and hopefully when I contact some of these other businesses, some of these bigger businesses, they'll be a little bit more inclined to work with me. And then still working on probably about a dozen events to round out. Some of these are more private events too, like going to specific businesses for lunches, and or like for like a major event at like a water park, things like that. So yeah, we'll see what happens. That's kind of where we're at. If you want to help, you can go to our website. I started thinking about the website address, and I said it in the middle of my sentence. So if you want to help us, please go to our website. It's sweetsoulfood.com, and that's soul as in SEOUL. So it's a little play on words. So sweetsoulfood.com. We also have a Facebook page. We have the TikTok, as you know. You have the YouTube. We have an Instagram. I'm not really doing too much with the Instagram right now, but just trying to stay up on all the social media for everybody. So best way to go. I have to update the website too with the links for the Facebook and stuff like that. But so just bear with me. I should have that up and running by the end of today, which is Saturday. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to message me on there. Otherwise, you can also get my email address off the website and off of Facebook. You can message me directly. So I appreciate you guys' support, and hopefully I'll have even better news on the next update. I'll see you guys later.